Sure, you can. Well, you gotta walk all the way around. Fine, here, it'll be fine. What's the project name? It's POA 2573? 2573.
They laugh, they have a good time. And it says, now they say, oh, well, we're gonna put a sign that says, hey,
Thank you so much. I don't do that.
because it says. So, I'm gonna get up early and I'm gonna go when the sun comes. And if you put a sign up, they're gonna say, I don't care, I'm gonna go home, I'm first here, I'm first.
So I'm like, okay, we sell our house, I hope, like, hey, you like, buy.
One person interested. And they asked me. Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna do that next time.
Our son did too, said that.
You came to the board and said,
you want to review it first?
It's not like there's enough restaurants.
Good morning, everybody. Karen, do we have all the TRC members present that have said they were coming? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so we'll call the February 4th, 2026 Walton County Technical Review Committee meeting to order. It's currently 9:05. Do we have any announcements? No? Okay. We have been presented the minutes of the December 17th, 2025 TRC meeting. Have our members had an opportunity to review those minutes?
We have.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We'll show those minutes approved unanimously. Our second agenda item is the Gulf of America Shores, and we have received a request on that particular application, which is MIN 250000138, to continue to the February 18th meeting. Rosanna, as a project manager, did you receive an email on that, or the applicant's here? Okay, the applicant's here for just to be here? Okay, okay.
Let me just clarify, at the last meeting, this will be our fourth TRC, so we were kind of running into some time constraints with 120 days. So I think that was the purpose. The applicant wanted to make sure there weren't any issues with their request to continue and potentially extend that time period.
So has the applicant made that request at a public meeting to continue?
No, they have not, besides the memo they provided,
Okay.
which is in InterGov.
So, Ms. Dee Dee, could I get you to come to the podium and give us your name for the record, please, ma'am?
Hi, I'm Dee Dee Mahan, agent for Gulf of America Shores, and we are requesting a continuance, please. We've got a few outstanding responses to comments, staff comments, for which we are working, and we should have it all wrapped up in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, so I have a couple questions, and
Okay.
these are based on statutory requirements
Sure.
that we're held to. I'm assuming that you understand you're waiving the 120-day limit on us either approving or denying a project. Are you waiving the 120 days with a continuance? Because I think that that'll have to happen for us to continue again. Otherwise, we would have to, unfortunately, this sounds harsh, but projects that we can't get through the system, for whatever reason, we can offer a meeting to try to help you get those resolved. If you need to meet with any of the specific review professionals, whether it be engineering, environmental, whatever it may be.
Yes, ma'am, we are requesting that.
You are requesting that. Okay, so Rosanna can help facilitate that meeting, but we are required to either, like I said, either deny or approve unless you formally request at a meeting to continue, which is the understanding that the 120 days is not, we're not held to a hard, fast deadline. And that's what we don't want to get to, is to have to deny a project.
Absolutely.
Because we can't get it through the process in 120 days.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, all right, so we're in agreement with that. So with that said, do we have a motion to continue Gulf of America Shores to the February 18th, 2026 meeting in this location?
Motion to continue.
Second?
Okay, all right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're so welcome. I appreciate you. So we show that motion, well, actually, no, I didn't call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So we have that motion approved unanimously to continue this project to the February 18th meeting of the Technical Review Committee. All right, next on the agenda, we have Legion Park improvements. And Ms. Rosanna Edwards is going to fill in for Bob Bronte, who is unable to be with us today. Can we get you to present this project, please,
Thank
ma'am?
you. This is the Legion Park improvements. It is a request to approve by development order. It's project number MIN 25-000105, and it was reviewed by Bob Bronte. This is a minor development order application submitted by Walton County Board of County Commissioners. They're requesting to add improvements to Legion Park on 3.43 plus or minus acres. Has a future land use in a zoning district of Parks and Recreation, and the property is located in District 4 on the north side of Crest Drive, which is east of North Geronimo Street, and identified by the parcel number in your staff report. If you would, please enter the staff report into the record. And also, also the public comments that I provided to you this morning. Please enter those into the record.
So entered, and something that you haven't seen, Rosanna, is someone has presented, it looks to be an old deed and some photographs. Did you get those this morning? Yes. Okay, so we will also enter these documents into the record. I have not had an opportunity, nor have you, to review them. So they're entered, and the one copy we have, we'll give to Karen at the end of the meeting.
Absolutely. I did try to go through some of the public comments we received as of Bob's absence and this morning. Some of those comments pertain to stormwater, the noise from the pickleball courts, and even identifying a gopher tortoise on the property. So those were some of the comments that we received from the public. And although I don't have any comments from reviewers in-house, I will just go over the brief description of the improvements they are providing. And that is installing a splash pad, adding 2 pickleball courts, replacing aged playground equipment, adding 2 shade pavilions, removing the existing volleyball court, removing and replacing the existing basketball court, paving the driveway and parking areas, adding sidewalks, 2 piers along the boat ramp, and adding irrigation and landscaping. So unless you have questions I might be able to answer, I will turn it over.
Okay, does anybody on our committee have any questions? Seeing none, we'll turn it over to the applicant. Who is going to represent this project? Good morning, sir. Can we get your name for the record, please?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. Nathan Hayden with Barge Design Solutions, Project Manager.
And you're the approved agent for the project, is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct? Okay, all right. So do you want to give us a brief presentation on it, or do you just want to be available for questions?
I can be available for questions. I think the presentation given a minute ago as far as what the improvements are was very sufficient. Since the last TRC meeting, we did make some adjustments to the project. We can talk about those. We have removed some of the larger parking spaces that were intended for boat parking. We're no longer making any modifications to the detention pond on the east side of the project. And we have removed some of the sidewalk and tree root bridges through the northwest portion of the project.
You said that you removed some of the parking. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
So has there been a problem with parking at this particular facility?
Not that I'm aware of. No, ma'am.
Okay.
It was, the reason that we removed that was that there was some public feedback of not a desire for it. And then also if we do make improvements to that, then we have some challenges with the DEP permit.
Okay, I see. And so I knew that there were some comments about the pickleball courts. Where are they currently in relation to where they're proposed to be located?
So on the proposed layout, the current pickleball court is north of the basketball court, between the basketball court and the proposed playground splash pad area.
And there's one and you're going to 2, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We are relocating it from the western edge of the park to more of a central location closer to Crest Drive.
Is there any type of sound attenuation being proposed for all of the new, or I'm more concerned about the new impacts to the surrounding lots, or like trees, buffers, anything that would help attenuate the additional, I guess in this case, the only additional impact would be the splash pad and the volleyball court, or the additional pickleball court. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am. So we did add some landscaping around the proposed pickleball courts
Okay.
to help with some of that sound.
Type of landscaping, I'm sorry to interrupt.
So it was specified by the landscape architect so that it would grow taller to provide some of that. And we
Okay.
can, and it's a larger caliper initially, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so instead of it coming in as just a small
Right.
starter tree, it's gonna have some growth to it, essentially. Okay. Okay. Are these like beach accesses? Are there like, I don't know, like regional parks versus, just the smaller accesses or smaller parks? Is this considered like a regional type park, or is it more community serving?
I would have to defer
Don't
to
know?
to
Okay,
Beach House.
okay. Obviously, I'm not very familiar with the project. This is really the first time I've been looking at it, and I probably should announce at the beginning of the meeting, our director, Stephen Schoen, had a conflict with this meeting. He is going to try to get here prior to the end of it, so, and he is definitely a lot more familiar with the project. So the questions I ask are just trying to bring me up to speed just in the event that he does not make it
I
to the
understand.
meeting. So thank you for for tolerating my questions that you've probably answered a dozen times already. What's the pink on this proposed plan? What is that showing? I can't really tell from the site plan.
So on that one-page layout, the hatched areas that are, I guess at the top or the north end of the project, kind of an L shape.
Right?
And then there's another area to the southwest corner of just a single bar there. So those are vegetative buffers. So for the DEP permitting requirements to basically lower or improve the water quality of the runoff for the site, because the water table is so high, there's not really a way to put a dry retention pond out here without violating development codes. So that is the treatment of the water that is running off. So everything is running off northwest of the project. So those are vegetative buffers that are going to be installed, and the water will run through those and filter the water before it enters the bay.
So when you say vegetative buffer, is it just more of a grass area, or are there trees, shrubs, and things planted?
Yeah, not necessarily trees, but shrubs and specific native vegetation types. But it's intended to filter out and get the nutrient load lower on the project.
Do you know if they're planting vegetation that is designed to be more absorbent of the water, or is it just literally just a filter?
It's basically a filter.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. In those areas, they will be designated that basically, we're not going to mow those areas. They'll have to stay in a native state, so it's
Okay.
going to add to the aesthetics of the park.
Okay. Are there signs, will there signs be up, or is that just going to be something that the county, I know this is a county park and county staff maintains it. It may be a question for Mr. Irvin too. I don't know how, what's the plan for making sure that those don't get mowed down?
We will have to put some signs up to keep pedestrian traffic out of those areas,
Okay,
and it'll be a do not mow type.
okay. Does anybody else have any questions at this point? No? Okay, so thank you for that. And if you want to just grab a seat in the table up at the front, we may need you again.
No worries. I'll be here for any questions.
So what we'll do, this is a minor development order project, and the technical review committee is the approving agency. So with that said, we will entertain public comment. We'll ask each person to come up individually, and we will jot down your questions just to kind of facilitate the process. If there's any questions that this committee can't answer, what we'll do is just jot them down, and then at the end, we can have our applicant or the county staff, whichever needed, to address those questions, and just in the nick of time. So, Mr. Schoen, we are on Legion Park. We have made it through the planning department's initial presentation. Our applicant has answered questions showing that these pink areas are filters for stormwater related to DEP. They've added one pickleball court, and they've relocated the pickleball courts from here to this area. There are some buffers being installed, some vegetative buffers to help attenuate some of the sound. For the additional impacts, which the basketball court is there, one pickleball court is there, and then I think the splash pad and the additional pickleball court are what are new. But the vegetation, they're working with a landscape architect on, bringing in some older, with more growth type trees. So it's not just little seedlings that are going to be planted.
Yeah.
They're going to be putting up signs to make sure that these vegetative buffers are not mowed. And of course, the county will maintain it, so their staff will know as well. They've eliminated some parking in this redesign. I don't know if I've picked up on everything, but we were just at the point of starting to take public comment.
Great.
So I was going to have everybody speak, and then let's have our applicant address their comments at the end. But now it's your show, so you can decide how you move forward. Well, no, I'll just move over because I'll just be here just in case something comes up that I've heard that
All right.
we haven't addressed. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning. Wow, that was loud. Thank you all for your patience. Thank you, Kelly. And yeah, I think it sounded like we were moving to public comment. So I will ask if anyone with technical comments, questions, or concerns, come on up, please.
Morning. My name's Frances Lovich.
Morning.
I've lived in
Will you spell your last name for?
Lovich.
Thank you.
I've lived in the area near the park for over 34 years, and I've used it almost every day, weather permitting. Sometimes twice a day I walk there. And I'm a little upset. The TRC requested the TDC have a public comment and meeting over the summertime, and a bunch of us, over 70 plus people, gathered at the park to listen to the plans. There was a lot of objections and concerns about the plans, and unfortunately, it doesn't even look like they took our comments into consideration, because a lot of the main issues, like the extra pickleball court, the splash pad, the boat docks, are still there. They made some minor changes, but it sounded like it was a waste of time, and they didn't listen to us. Now, the plans radically are going to transform the park, filling it with amenities that the community doesn't want. It's a quiet, peaceful park. A lot of people go there because they don't have big yards, so they go there to walk their dogs, children kick their balls around, or, play fetch, or, whatever. But one of the issues is it's a small park. Over a third of it right now is drainage, retention ponds, and a ditch. So the public can't utilize that. It's muddy, it's mucky. So there's also the driveway that'll lead down to the boat ramp. That's consuming almost a good portion. So what's left is less than half of the park, and that's where they want to cram all of these amenities in. There's already a pickleball court, which they want to remove, and then they want to take away our volleyball court so that they could have 2 pickleball courts, and move the basketball court away a few feet. So they're wasting a lot of funds, and they're putting in some things like the 2 pickleball courts. They're not even used all the time, because I'm there all the time. It's a lot of space in the park that they want to consume, and only a handful of people are going to enjoy it or use it, while everyone else is going to be crowded into a small area where it's open. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous here. They're going to pour in a bunch of hundreds of feet of concrete walkways throughout that small area that's already open for the park. And when they pour in those concrete areas, we're going to be forced to walk on those when it's hot during the summertime. There's not going to be a lot of open space, like I said, to walk in the grass or, just on the ground. And those concrete pathways are going to disturb the root systems of the surrounding trees. I forgot to mention that they still want to plan on cutting down several large, mature pine trees in order to make these plans work in the park. And we need the shade. The wildlife, needs a habitat. I've seen ospreys and I've seen some bald eagles perch in those pine trees. So I'd hate to see those beautiful trees, be cut down. That's almost 20%. We only have like 45 trees in that park. That's a big chunk. Also, just about this vegetative buffer areas, that they want to install. I think part of it's going to be on the south side, then on the west side, and then in the middle. These are big areas that are consuming what little open space we have. We're not going to be able to walk on those areas. We're going to be forced to walk on these hot concrete pathways. So they're shrinking what little area we have in order to accommodate these things. The splash pad, so many people were commenting at the park meeting during the summer. We don't want it. There are other splash pads in the county, and plus the idea of, waterborne illnesses, contamination, and kids getting sick. It's just not a good idea in that small park. Also, this idea of putting the two 40-foot docks on either side of the narrow boat ramp. It's a small park. They're already eliminating, boat trailer parking spots. Where are these people going to park? There aren't that, very few, boats are going to be able to be launched from this boat ramp. And with these two long piers, it almost sounds like they're putting them there so that they could open it up to commercial vendors renting pontoon boats or jet skis. We already have problems with congestion, with people launching their boats, paddle boards, and that little ramp, and there's safety issues. So putting in these big docks and the possibility of vendors is only going to exacerbate the problem. My idea, or my wish, would be put a nice dock maybe further to the west, just for people to use, so that they can walk down, sit at the edge, and fish, so that they won't be right there at the boat launch, where it's just a safety concern. It's crazy. And I will say this, it gets very crowded during the summertime with boats trying to go in there and launch, parking. And if they're taking away parking spots for these boat trailers, what's going to happen? It's just a big issue. I think what we need to do is just upgrade the children's equipment, redo the inside of the bathrooms, and just kind of keep our park quiet and open as it is. They're crowding too many things in there, and it's going to be too congested. It's going to ruin the quaint charm of the park. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, when you do come up, spell your last name for us. I appreciate it.
Dan Skupin, S-C-U-P-I-N.
Good morning.
I'm glad to see that you're here, because you were here last time at the TRC meeting, and I was very happy that you were able to table the meeting and you told them, have another public meeting and try to compromise with the people.
I did.
And that was something that I was very happy to see, because it was finally the government saying, listen to the people. Why don't you listen to the people? And so what did they do? On July 9th, we had a public meeting. We attended that public meeting. Again, 70, 80 people showed up. That's very, very unusual to get that many people to show up to do anything. Well, they all showed up. They all were there for hopefully to hear something new. We had presented a compromise plan. That compromise plan, and there's a copy of it in front of you. And so you'd think at minimum they would talk about it and say, well, we don't like your compromise plan. Here's what we want to do. They totally ignored it. They didn't even look at it. And all they did was come back and do the same thing, and they just tried to just tell us we're not changing anything, or some minor changes, and it's just too bad. And I heard from Brian Kellenberger that this will never happen again at the next TDC meeting. It's going to go blasting through. And I asked him what that meant, and he didn't say anything. But I think they just said, okay, the TRC meeting said we should do this meeting. We're going to do it. No good faith at all. and they just did it. And we have in there, they submitted minutes of what they said happened. So what we did is we taped the whole thing, and we had people transcribe what happened. And there's like 5 or 6 pages. It's kind of long, but it shows what really happened at that meeting, not what they said happened. And I would hope that you guys take a look at that, because there was just no good faith effort at all. Any of this thing, they ignored our plan, went through the motions, believed they could just beat us down. And this has been going on since 2024. So you have a copy of our compromise plan and the minutes. And the other thing I wanted to mention, there's many problems, and people are going to bring them up, but this idea of noise concerns. I don't know if you guys are familiar or not with what's going on with pickleball courts, but if you just Google pickleball courts in state of Florida, you're going to see that it's a serious problem. The noise drives people crazy, and there's a lot of lawsuits, a lot of complaints. I talked to Matt Richardson, I think his name is, from the county attorney's office, and I said, what's going on with the sound ordinance? I mean, Walton County has a sound ordinance. So of course, as usual, he said, well, we don't work for you, taxpayer. We work for the county commissioners, so I can't tell you anything. So he suggested, well, maybe you should talk to code enforcement. So I did contact them, and they were pretty sympathetic to that. And then, something as simple as, you're going to have pickleball courts within, and all the literature says if it's in 250 feet, it's a big problem. But, it's within 100 feet. These courts are in front of all the houses. I showed you a map. You guys have a picture of a map. There's a map right there. You'll see where the volleyball court is right here. This is where they're going to put 2 pickleball courts. There's all the houses right in front. I mean, people that live near there should have some rights as far as noise goes. Our Walton County ordinance says that people should be able to enjoy, in their house, they shouldn't have noise constantly driving them crazy. And so we said, well, what do other modern counties or cities do? Well, they do a sound study. So we contacted, because we asked them about it, and they said, there's no need for a sound study. We know better than you. It's not going to bother anybody. Nobody cares. That's what they told us. And so we had to go out, and there's a couple companies in Tallahassee that do these sound studies, and I gave you copies, and they sent us a letter. I showed them this map, and they sent a brochure back, and you can see that's what people do for a living. They study this stuff because there's so many complaints and so many problems that most counties will have a study done, and if there's a problem, you have to get it early. And the guy told me, he says, if they do decide to build these things, they should at least plan ahead and put some sound buffers and stuff like that, and they have to build them that way so they'll have the sound buffers. But when we were saying that this is going to be within 100 feet or so of our property, the guy would I think he just couldn't believe it that they were going to try to do that, because there's so many problems, and all you're doing is just open yourself up for lawsuits, for code enforcement. I mean, what you're going to do is even right now, people come in at 7 o'clock in this court over here. Now, unfortunately, Bill back here, who lives right next to the old court, he says that people could driving him crazy at 7 o'clock in the morning. Even if you change it to 9 o'clock or something like that and say you can't do it, then people will come anyway, so you got to call a code enforcement. I mean, it's just a nightmare that you're going to start having. And with 2 pickleball courts and a spectators area in between, it's going to be super noisy, and it's going to drive everybody crazy. So minimum, a sound study should be done. They shouldn't just ignore people that live around there, residents that have been there 20, 30 years, and just say, well, tough. We're doing this because the TDC wants it. So anyway, that's what I wanted to have to say about that. Any questions or anything? I left you a few exhibits of what our compromise plan was. They ignored, and the sound studies and things like that. So hopefully you'll take a look at that stuff. I just can't see, this has not been well planned out. And the other thing I just wanted to mention, I spoke with 3 other county commissioners, And they told me, this is unbelievable that you guys are having this kind of problem. They're spending $1.5 million, and you guys should be real happy. Why is there a war going on with all the residents around there? Well, the war is going on is because nobody's listening to the residents. They just want to do it for their own selves. Is it because it's an election year? There's some election promises they think they can put in their brochures? We don't know, but it's certainly not what the residents want.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
Hi, my name is Leah V. The last name is, it's V as in Victor, I-E-H-E.
Great, thank you.
And I guess unlike everybody else in here, I'm in favor of the renovations to the park. I've played a handful of times pickleball there. I'm a pickleball player. I'm not understanding what they're talking about it being so loud. I've played pickleball for years, and it's not, I don't think it's that loud. Anyway, those pickleball courts there the one that's there is subpar. It would be nice to have some pickleball courts that are, nice. I'm not saying nice as Regatta Bay, but where we wouldn't have to go to other places to play because that one, the fence is too low, it's just not adequate. And I've tried to launch my kayak at Hagan Park. It's almost impossible. It would be nice to have a new kayak launch there. I don't have kids, so I can't really speak to the splash pad. I've been familiar with a lot of them in the past, and I've never heard or seen any issues with kids, dying or getting hurt or anything at those. And they're really for the little kids. And I just think some improvements would be nice there. I live closer to Paradise Park, where they just installed a new kids' playscape, and it's really nice. And it's just really nice to see how many kids enjoy it. There's always kids there, and they love it. And so I think the improvements is a good thing. I do. I think that a lot more people would be able to utilize the park if it was nicer. It's just subpar right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tricia Scoopin. I lived directly across the park for 21 years, and I have observed much going on about it. Yes, it does look in the new site plans that you obviously have eliminated the boat parking. Less asphalt's good. However, this ramp has been used for years for the public to launch their boats. They will need a place to park them. And yet you are proposing to put in 2 docks on each side of the ramp. So where's the public supposed to be parking their boats? And these docks, most of the neighbors are concerned that you're going to allow commercial boats to come in and pick up paying passengers for their boats at these docks. And these docks should not be used for commercial boats. The commissioners earlier stated this last summer that they wouldn't allow that, but we would like to have that done in law. We'd like to have a sign posted or something, docks not for commercial use. If you guys allow, the county, if you allow the commercialization and overdevelopment of so much of the stuff you want to do to this park, you're going to totally change the ambiance of this park. It will be chaotic, congested, unsafe for families to come and have a nice, quiet park outing. You will totally ruin this nice, quiet park. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rhonda Mason, and I live at 49 Bayshore Drive.
Good morning. Is that M-A-S-O-N?
M-A-S-O-N, correct. And the pickleball courts are extremely loud. There is absolutely no buffer where it is right now. Individuals show up in the summertime, the sun comes up very early. It starts at 6 in the morning when most people are still sleeping unless they're going to work. It is very loud. It's not just the voices that are loud. The balls make a lot of noise. If any of you have ever played pickleball, we call it kerplunkers. I mean, it is kerplunk, 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 kerplunk. Constantly, anytime someone is there. I don't understand what resident asked for all this. Who asked for all this? Wasn't us. We didn't ask for it. We're paying for it with our taxes, but we didn't ask for it. We don't want it. My front porch looks directly out to the bay. I'm told it's not going to affect my property value when they put a big splash pad in there that completely obstructs my view. Now, if it were your home, would you like that there? I don't think so. It's quiet. Love to hear the kids playing. I think the playground equipment is a good idea. You don't need a splash pad. This is not a resort. This is a community park. Why? I want to know why. And who thought it was such a great idea? Because it wasn't anybody that lives in the area. It wasn't anybody that enjoyed this park. I also have a concern with I think it's 8 20-foot lights that are going to be installed. If this park is only open from dawn to dusk, why do we need 8 20-foot lights? If there's not something going on that we're not being told and plans for something to develop further, there's no need for those lights. I have transoms on all my windows in the front of my house. If all of those lights are on, they will be shining in my windows. They will be shining in the windows across the street on Crest Drive. There's no parking for boats. Boats can't get in. Most decent-sized boats cannot get in and out of there. There is not a big enough draft for most boats. Kayaks, yes. Paddleboards, yes. Jet skis. Very small, low draft boats can get in there and out of there at low tide. Why do we need docks for that? The water's so shallow now, it's shallow 100 feet out. We sit and watch people trying to launch their boats and getting stuck all season long when they are doing it. If you don't have a shallow draft boat, you are going to get stuck before you get out to deeper water. And it happens. Boats, signage, we need more signage. There needs to be a sign at the end of Geronimo because we have huge boats turning right, even though it's a dead-end street, they turn right. They can't turn around. They can't turn around without driving into somebody else's property. And if you were to go and look at that concrete and asphalt that's at the end of Bayshore Drive, butting up to the park, you would find chunks of asphalt from people driving over constantly. That costs money to replace, and it has been replaced over and over and over again. The picture that you see up there, the pink buffer between my property or our property and the park, that's trees. Those trees, a lot of vegetation there. It doesn't look like there's anything there, that they're going to put something there that doesn't exist. Well, there are a bunch of trees and a bunch of vegetations, and there are gopher tortoises living in that. They're an endangered species. You can't do anything with it. So it is going to be, it isn't showing it very well on the map that there are big trees there. It's on the picture, it's the pink off of Press Drive on the east side. Yeah, it just bothers me a lot that it doesn't seem that people that live there are being listened to. And even our commissioner, she's not listening. She's not listening to us. She's not here. So we really would like to see changes made. I don't understand why they have to do anything at all but replace. I have to admit, what they have done so far on the shoreline with the swings they put in, great. The fencing, so that nobody falls off, that's great. That's great. That was very much appreciated. But splash pads, we don't need splash. We need bicycle racks for the kids' bikes that they have to throw down because there's nothing like that there. We need golf cart only parking at the end of that street. People park and across from us all the way, sometimes block our driveways. It should be a community park, not a destination. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Katie Eberly. I live on Ponce de Leon Street, which is right near the park.
Please spell that last name for me.
Eberly, E-B like a boy, E-R-L-Y.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for hearing us today. I'm just so torn up about this because I want to know what the end game is. It seems like we're wanting to just tear down all the trees and just basically destroy the park. I have kids. I have 3 kids. We all enjoy going down to the park and playing. And yes, the playground does need to be redone and upkept. It's very old. So we are looking forward to that. So I do feel like improvements are needed. It's like when you have a house structure, are you going to tear down your whole house and revamp it? Or are you going to upkeep it and maintain it and make it look nice, be usable? So I think a few points that I have here, and I'm extremely nervous for some reason. I think it's because I have so much I want to say. Here it's written here, provide an active and passive recreational system that meets the needs of permanent and seasonal residents of Walton County. And it says here that y'all are going to have, the county shall seek support from citizens, environmental, ecotourism groups in the designation, acquisition, and maintenance of county parks and recreation facilities and street. So basically what it's saying is that y'all are going to take into account what the surrounding citizens, permanent residents are looking forward in a park. And I can honestly tell you, my kids have no desire to go to a splash pad. There is a splash pad at Helen McCall Park. There's a splash pad at Grand Boulevard. There is a splash pad, I think, in Destin Commons. We do not go to splash pads. We have the bay and we have the beach. If not, we have sprinklers we can run for fun, running through it. There is a lot of maintenance. I work in healthcare, and you can have things that can cause illness that kids get exposed to if these are not upkept properly. I don't see any point. Personally, I don't see any point. A huge thing that I want to bring up too is there is an overdevelopment of our area. We already have flooding issues in our area, and this has trees, this has grass, this has things to absorb water. If we go and we pave these areas, where is that water gonna go? Because we already have a problem with that. There's a proposal to raise the entire grade without impacting neighborhood properties and water and runoff. How is that possible? Because we're already impacted by this already. So if you are going to raise the entire grade, how is it going to happen to where the water runoff is not going to impact the neighboring properties? The other thing is there is stormwater management that consists of other raising grades. When you start to pave this in, those trees that she's talking about where the turtles live, those are going to die off. These things are going to die off. It's basically choking trees off at the base. So my kids, they love going to the park because it's nature. So my question is, I don't think they want another cement place to go play. They want a place where they can go run in the grass, feel like they're in nature, enjoy the outside. I mean, I have so much frustration built up, so I'm probably not coming across as clear as I should, but I don't understand. Like, I guess I don't understand, because we have money that we can make improvements. Like, the playground does need to be made improvement, but I don't understand why we have to destroy the whole footprint of the park. The other thing is, I'm not necessarily against pickleball or anything like that. The noise, I don't know much about. I haven't researched that. But I'm just saying in general, I just want a park to be a true park, not a paved place where my kids can't enjoy it, you know? And the other thing is, there's so much confusion about what's going to happen with the parking situation with the boat launch. It already is tough to park there. So I don't know, the proposals, I can't keep up with it all because I am working and I'm a working mom. So it keeps getting changed as far as what they're going to do. But there is a parking problem there. So if you have a lot more people coming into there, what are you going to do with parking? Because you can't pave more area that's not there. So, I mean, those are the big things, I think. And I do see people play at the volleyball courts. If you pave those areas and put pickleball courts, you know, there's an absorption issue there again with runoff and water. So, I mean, basically over 1/3 of the side of that park, basically this is not places that we can play. So we only have this zone. My kids try to play over here, which is kind of nasty because I don't really know where the runoff and all the chemicals and all the fertilizers and all the other stuff that comes into this area. So I try to keep them more here. But we enjoy the trees and the foliage in these zones. And if they pave these areas over a period of time, these trees will die out. They will die. And so that's huge. I just think that's huge to know. It may be gradual and it may be slow, but it's gonna happen. And I think it's important to maybe call in, you know, a specialist that my husband was gonna come, but he was sick and he can explain deeper these things, and I was expecting him to be able to do that. But it is gonna happen. They've done it at the end of the bridge here at, where those, when you go over the bridge, where they have those pretty little restaurants, they had trees start to die off because they basically choked them out. Because when you pave around them, those roots, they die. Those roots are all throughout this area. And so it does happen. So I don't know. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ah, you tricked me, sir. Are you coming back up? All right, you're grabbing the picture. All right.
I'm slow.
It's early yet. Will you introduce yourself for us, please?
My name is William Mason, M-A-S-O-N.
Good morning.
I live right here. Those trees are big trees. They want to act, he wants to act like there's nothing there. And they're going to plant vegetation in there to absorb the water. Looks to me like there's a lot of big trees and vegetation there. The problem is, the parks have never touched that property. They don't know what's in there. They don't go in there. I have to trim along Crest Avenue here so people can walk down Crest because they let it grow to the road. And you can't see down the road. That's how responsible they are on taking care of stuff. This piece of concrete right here is the end of Bayshore Drive. The boats come down Bayshore Drive. They can't get to the boat launch here. This is where they have to turn around. There's not enough room. So they drive in my yard, they drive in their yard. Now their proposal, I was told, is to take this out and run a fence all along here. Now that's not gonna be there. Now where are the bicycles, the golf carts? Everybody that goes to the park is supposed to park. And the cars are gonna park now, which they already do and block my driveway and that, but there's gonna be twice as many now parking along Bay Shore Drive. Crest Avenue here. When they do this, whatever they're gonna do to that boat launch, which that boat launch is not feasible for any boat over 16 feet with a motor on it. It's fine for kayaks, jet skis. I got no issue with that. But it's not safe for boats to launch in there. And now they've taken away parking spots. Where are these trailers gonna park? Other than along Crest Avenue. There's no parking for them. This pickleball court. Let's get into this here a little bit. I just wanted to point that out because unless I show you where my house is and what's affected, you're not going to understand it by listening to me. Sure. Now, this is our community park. I'm interested, I want to know who requested all this to be done. Somebody had to come and say, hey, we need to upgrade and do a bunch of stuff at Legion Park. Has any usage studies been done on that park? Have any sound studies been done? The park didn't even know that they had that piece of property that I just showed you there with those trees. People came from the parks yesterday because I complained because their growth has destroyed my fence. And they've never come along there and cleared any of it out, cut any of it off that's grown over my fence, done anything with it. And we have contacted them over the years by phone, left messages and emails, and never got a response.
Who is they, sir? Who did you contact?
The Parks District. And the gopher turtles are in there. So, just so you know, they are in there because I game warden, I had them check and they're there. Moving that west side, that thing, where's the parking gonna go? What about signs? Right now, you come down Geronimo to Bay Shore Drive, and you turn right on Bay Shore Drive to go to the park. That is where MapQuest and all these take you to go to that park. They don't take you to the entrance of the park. We need signs that say dead end. No boat launch here. Go to Crest. Have a boat launch sign on Crest Avenue so those people stop going down Bay Shore Drive. They get mad.
I'm sure.
Pickleball. If you type in Legion Park right now on Google, the second thing that comes up is Legion Park Pickleball. So you click on that and it says Legion Park has a pickleball court. And it says that it is available from dawn to dusk. 6 o'clock in the morning when the sun comes up, it's awful early for that thing to be going back and forth out there waking people up. It is loud. There have been noise studies done. There are other places in Florida where they are shutting down and taking out pickleball courts. It's a fad. It's just like cornhole. It's like bowling alleys. How many empty bowling alleys are sitting around? How many empty pickleball courts are there going to be around? That pickleball court's utilized maybe a quarter of the time. I didn't interrupt you. People get out there, they fight, they cuss, they swear. They're not like the kids. The kids come to the park, I have no issues, and I've asked other neighbors. Basketball courts, college kids, high school kids, playing basketball. They're having fun. They laugh. They don't fight. I have no issues with them out there. They leave when it gets dark. It's not that I don't like people using the park. Park's great. I have 11 grandkids, 3 great-grandkids. They love the park. The more you do, the more chances there are going to be of trouble. You're inviting in more people that don't need to be there. This is not a resort park. This is a community park. Half of these parks that have splash pads get shut down. And they have to come and clean them. And that happens 2 or 3 times a week at some of these places. Vendors. That's everybody's biggest concern. There are plans for vendors to go in there with their meat wagons. And we already have issues with vendors that are loading and unloading passengers for pontoon boats and that there. And that's not allowed there, but nobody will do anything about it. I asked some of the parks people when we had that meeting back in July if there were going to be vendors. They wouldn't commit. They would not say that there were not going to be vendors. There's a reason they're doing this. Somebody's going to get money out of this. Somebody's got a meat wagon, and we know who it is. We know who it is. There's enough outlets, strip malls, restaurants, a quarter mile away on 98 that we don't need vendors brought into our community park. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. You do the same. I do appreciate the golf claps, just so you know.
Hello, my name is Sarah Moss. Thank you so much for your, for the most recent TRC in which this project was tabled. We believe that was the correct decision, and we do believe it would be the correct decision today. I would first like to come out with the committee members and just kind of get an understanding of what's happening today. I had pulled the information for the technical review committee, and it appears there should be 7 members, and that the vote today is actually just a recommendation to the planning department director for approval or denial. So if the project is voted for approval or denial today, does that mean, is that the final, or is there a future decision that is made?
If the project is approved or conditionally approved today, it will not go in front of another board. It will go to the planning director once the DO is prepared.
Okay, thank you. The notes had stated that this plan was in compliance with the comprehensive plan, and I had actually just printed out a couple sections of that, which I thought somewhat conflicted with the plans with this park. And I'm sorry, before we get into that, I would like to ask, the Walton County LDC, section 1.13.11, under major development plan, actually gives power and authority to the planning director to escalate a minor development order to a major development order based on certain criteria. And it states that any development that the Director of Planning and Department Services determines should be subject to more thorough consideration and review based on the following criteria. And it states the proposed development will have a potential impact on public facilities, natural resources, or public safety based on location, complexity, or the hazardous nature of the use. And I believe that all three of those conditions at least can exist with this plan. It is potential impact on public facilities, the natural resources, and the public safety. Moving on to the comprehensive plan, policy R 1.1.1 states that Walton County shall seek support from citizens, environmental, and ecotourism groups in the design, acquisition, and maintenance of county parks, recreational facilities, and state greenway systems. So we have not seen where any environmental groups or ecotourism groups have put input into this park, and I was curious if that had actually been accomplished by the applicant. And this was policy R 1.1.1, which is recreation, open space, and greenways element of the Walton County Comprehensive Plan. Policy 1.1.4 states that Walton County and I'm not going to read it verbatim, Walton County State, through partnership with the TDC, shall provide, maintain, and improve existing boat launching facilities for all visitors and residents of Walton County. It was mentioned earlier that Hagen Park they're unable to launch kayaks at Hagen Park. Hagen Park is another bayfront park in Miramar Beach. There's only, I would like to point out, there's only 3 boat launch facilities in South Walton. There are 2 bayfront parks in Miramar Beach. Hagen Park, over the past couple of years, has actually been closed off to vehicular access, making it very difficult for people to carry kayaks to the bay. So essentially, the closure and fencing of Hagen Park has essentially cut off that park from bay access. So it has brought a lot more, as it was pointed out, more traffic to Legion Park. Of course, Legion Park, the main focus of that park is the Choctawhatchee Bay. That's the draw there. Policy R 2.1.7, design standards for development of new recreation sites or redevelopment of existing recreation sites shall be consistent with the applicable local, regional, state, and federal codes. I wanted to mention that because there was a letter that was drafted by the FDEP to Walton County that stated they believe that there were potential permitting issues at this park, and that the permits that are currently listed as reference to this park are not the correct permits for the stormwater going into the bay. Policy R 3.1.10, Walton County shall support limited land clearing for the purpose of passive recreation and access ways for maintenance, preservation, and restoration of native vegetation in established greenways. These improvements to the park, like others have mentioned, really kind of transforms the entire natural park to more of an athletic type park. I don't think that type of park is appropriate for an area like the bay and the environmental sensitivity of the bay. Walton County Policy 3.3.4 states that 3 primary habitat patterns should have protective priority. And the number 1 item on that is the high, dry, longleaf pine habitat. The large pines in Miramar Beach are disappearing at an alarming rate. The state of Florida actually has a program. I think they pay homeowners in Northwest Florida up to $10,000 to literally grow longleaf pines. This area has been under continued development, and pines are disappearing. So this park is one of the few places where you can find some of the old growth large pines. These pines are huge. This is the coastal management element, goals, objectives, and policies of the Walton County Comprehensive Plan. This was amended June 18th, 2018. There's a section here, objective CM 1.3, during the development review process for development and redevelopment along shoreline areas, a shoreline use shall not be approved if it decreases the amount of legal public access to beaches, lakes, or open waters. This park, again, seems to be decreasing the access to the bay in favor of athletic type access, as well as commercial use. It goes on, shoreline land uses shall not be allowed unless they ensure protection of coastal beaches and/or coastal dune lakes and their outfalls, federal or state threatened, endangered, or species of special concern and their associated habitat, grass beds, oyster beds, recreational and commercial fisheries, and improve or maintain estuarine surface and groundwater quality. With the introduction of continued and additional impervious surfaces, it's unquestionable that this project is creating more runoff and stormwater that is going into the bay. The addition of the additional drainage buffers is basically opening up more outfalls and encouraging more polluting stormwater going into the bay. Policy CM 2.2.12, if a cultural, archaeological, or structural resource identified on the Florida Master Site File is located within the area to be developed, the county shall require a site-specific survey and avoidance during construction or mitigation, consistent with policy. I won't continue on that. I think you can probably read that policy, but that is another one that I believe that this project does not fall into compliance with, this policy CM 2.2.12. And it discusses the Florida Master Site File and structural resources. There was a letter dated June 12th, 2025 from the Florida Department of State Division of Historical Resources, which did identify that the shoreline was a historical resource at this site. It also suggested that there was also there was a letter found dated April 29th, 25 from the U.S. Department of Interior, which identified Legion Park as overlapping the critical habitat of the Gulf sturgeon. June 12th, the state of Florida indicated that the shoreline potentially had impact to bald eagle, migratory birds, potentially gopher tortoises, and they actually suggested to contact the field office for further study. I could not find any further studies on those animals within Legion Park. And I was actually unaware until today that there's actually been visible sightings of gopher tortoises in this area. But I think that is certainly something that should be looked at, because on the plans they do show that they are, I believe, clearing a currently vegetated area of the park for installation of the drainage. Is that correct? The pink areas are basically going to be.
We'll ask the applicant.
Thank you. Interesting, I saw I did a request and found that the proof of ownership submitted for this development was actually two separate plats, private subdivision plats, was the proof of ownership on file for this. And that was the Flamingo Beach subdivision and the High Pines subdivision. I somewhat believe that may have been intentional because there is a deed from the Bureau of Land Management, which I provided earlier today, in the packet that actually has some conditions for this park and encumbrances, restrictions for this park when it was originally transferred from the Bureau to Walton County. This is dated April 1968, and it states on here essentially that this park is being transferred to Walton County for recreational purposes only. And so half of the park at this time has been changed from recreational to stormwater, industrial, I'm not sure. So we believe that there is potentially a violation in the use of the property because the property is supposed to be for recreation. When this was originally developed, I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was developed in coordination with the Board of County Commissioners and the Florida Division of Natural Resources. If I could go back just 1 second, it was interesting also that 2 private subdivision plats were submitted with part of the application, but there's a third subdivision that's adjacent to the park that was not recorded. This third subdivision has, it's Ponce de Leon Estates, and it actually lists Crest Drive, I think, as an 18.5-foot roadway with a much smaller easement. A lot of the applicant's plans and engineering plans state that Crest Drive has a 66-foot easement right-of-way easement, but the plat of Ponce de Leon Estates shows a much smaller easement for that area. So I wanted to point that out because I assumed that that would be important for the parking. When I reviewed the engineering reviews, it appeared that a lot of the right-of-way discussion and confirmation of the right-of-way, it was suggested that the construction or the engineers deal with public works, so there wasn't really a lot of transparency on that. There was mentions of right-of-way agreements. The packet that I provided today included the deed, and that deed actually does suggest that the federal government can take ownership back for this property if the conditions aren't met that are listed in the deed, and it's actually a 2-page deed. Interestingly, I did see with one of the state applications that were filed, there was mention of a deed, and I think I saw one where it had a 1-page deed, but it was actually missing the signed, sealed second page of the deed, which I was able to find from the Bureau of Land Management. There's a recorded deed in Walton County, but it's only the 1 page. It only includes the first page of the deed. It's not a signed, sealed deed or complete. June 24th, 2025, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection had actually submitted some questions and requests for additional information on this project. In this request, it suggested that the existing on-site dry retention pond appears to have been permitted incorrectly under the 10-2 self-certification for a stormwater management system due to the site impacting surface waters, and as well as being part of a larger plan of development due to the pond servicing an off-site residential development. They requested detailed narrative providing existing conditions as well as volumes. I included that letter. It was about a 5-page letter with requests from the DEP. I included that with the information that I gave you. And I'm actually going over those documents in order at this time. I included a Walton County Public Works Division Engineering Department memo from dated December 1st, 2021. This memo was in response to the Miramar Community Meeting for response to citizens' concerns. And number 2 on this section says Legion Park stormwater improvements. There was concern that the implemented stormwater improvements at Legion Park were not permitted. Please note that a 10-2 certification was submitted for the proposed maintenance work. And so I don't believe for one, the 10-2, I had researched that permit, and the permit was actually done by a gentleman who is a traffic engineer, not a stormwater engineer. and it had false statements on it relating to the size of the pipe that was being installed at Legion Park when that installation actually happened. The installation of the drainage pipe at Legion Park was done in 2018, 2019. There was no public notice. There was never any notice posted at the park. I believe there's a lot of unpermitted activities that have been going on in this park, as well as the construction of the pickleball court back in 2018 that was done by I've identified something from the TDC that had built that pickleball court. The original construction of that pickleball court, there was never any public meetings for us to come or have any comments on. One day we just woke up and there was a pickleball court being proposed. One of the first things that kind of caught my eye when you look at the Legion Park and the plans and the actual plat or the survey of Legion Park is you'll notice the witness line. The witness line clearly shows that the park legal boundaries are well inside the land, not seaward. It's almost like the seawall was built out into the bay. The original seawall that was there had always kind of protruded into the bay a little bit. They installed a seawall. I don't think they ever posted a notice on site stating that there were any public meetings about the seawall. The seawall construction is when the drain was installed as well. And the county came in and they installed that seawall outside the existing seawall. Since the installation of that seawall, the grass has never really grown the same. It's, they've drained the park and extended the land boundary further into the bay when they installed that seawall. I included a picture of the east side of the park when it was basically a field. It was a beautiful grassy field that people walked their dogs. People, would see people sitting down on picnic blankets. And that, of course, is now just a sludgy stormwater pond. I included pictures of the construction of the drain from 2019, as well as reference the task orders for that. The drain was installed for the purpose of continuing development in the area because, as you know, Miramar Beach is getting smaller and smaller. All the prime properties have been built, so that leaves the swamplands and the wetlands left. And so it seems that this process through the past 6 years or so, that Walton County has intentionally and deliberately redirected a lot of stormwater that from neighboring neighborhoods to this park. There are some additional pictures of the stormwater. There's a tractor in the bay. Current conditions of this park, the park has an extreme amount of stormwater that's now coming into it. It's flooded like it never has before. And that, I believe, is kind of what's leading now to the need of creating more stormwater outflows, or when the one that's there is not really permitted, and it has never been filtered. I did include just a posting which indicated the size of the pipe that was installed at Legion Park in 2019. And again, the permit that was filed indicated a different size pipe. Finally, there's a section that I had received. There's a drawing of the proposed pond maintenance as it was described in 2019. And there is a pipe existing that does not exist on this map that was used as the maintenance for this location. It was all new, sending stormwater into the bay. I had some flooding issues in my last neighborhood, and I couldn't get Walton County's help with them. So I learned a lot about stormwater and its detrimental effects on the Choctawhatchee Bay, which is a type 2 water body, which is supposed to be for oyster harvesting, and it's also impaired water body for many decades, of course. This is the site file review request, going back to the state, and the review for endangered species and protected resources for the property. And in bright yellow, it states that this record is for informational purposes only and does not constitute a project review. This search only identifies resources recorded in the Florida Master File site and does not provide project approval from the Division of Historical Resources. So based on that, I thought that perhaps this project may be, fall under the jurisdiction of the Division of Historical Resources due to the shoreline. And it did note the critical habitat of the Gulf sturgeon, the tortoises, and then it suggested it did not do a review on the bald eagles or the migratory birds. It suggested that an additional review be requested for that. And I actually did not include that in the packet. It was an email that I had sent, and I can send that. I can forward that information as well, but I believe it was from the citizen portal. I did go through the plans, and I found a lot of inconsistencies. One, I understand that like the docks have already been approved by the Army Corps of Engineers, and they had an address that was 14498 Ponce de Leon Street, something to that effect. But I did let the Pensacola office know. I'm sure it was probably just an oversight, in a third-party filing for the report. Whether it was intentional due to the deed restrictions or, I don't know. I mean, technically boating is part of recreation, so I mean, it should be allowed on this property, I would think. Going back to unpermitted projects that have happened on this park that we were never allowed, we never had an opportunity to give public review, although it states, that the public is to be included in the plans. This is a task list report from Visit South Walton showing June 28th, 2021. Bring out tractor or skid steer and prep property for pickleball court. Bring laser level and confirm entire 30 by 60 is the same level as we will be pouring concrete. See stakes for rough in estimate. Communicate with Paul before you begin. Smokey will be doing the concrete. See pictures. And this was on June 28th, 2021, basically adding to the impervious surface of the park without any kind of permit, process, review, public input, nothing. We woke up and saw that we were having pickleball courts. And so I think that's one of the issues now is that people say, well, the pickleball courts that are there are dangerous. They are because they weren't properly permitted or planned or anything to that effect. While we're on pickleball, I'd like to mention, and I had sent an email with a couple examples, but pickleball lawsuits are increasing. And what else is increasing is governments and cities and HOAs who are now settling with homeowners because they understand that the sound of the pickleball, I think at 100 foot, is still 70 decibels, which is a very loud noise. And there are pickleball courts that have been in operation, some of them for years, that are now closing, that are shuttering. They're converting them from pickleball to tennis courts. And so although the Land Development Code doesn't specifically address pickleball courts or athletic against residential properties, we're hopeful that just the fact that it's proven, it's a simple Google search, you can see that pickleball greatly reduces the quality of life for anyone living near it. It's just nonstop. People say that they can't sleep, they lose quality, they can't enjoy their outdoors, and that, as others had mentioned, this park is very natural and beautiful and not. We believe that perhaps pickleball would be more compatible, perhaps, on the land on Highway 98. Walton County owns a couple acres there that they had planned originally for parking lots, but perhaps with the absence of residential and it's more in a commercial area, maybe the pickleball courts could be planned there. I had spoken with the adjacent property owner to Hagen Park, or not Hagen, Paradise Park. They said they would love pickleball courts at Paradise Park. But unfortunately, we've never once had a recorded county meeting where we could all come together and try to make sense and make the best decisions for Miramar Beach. There were there was some online comments recently that stated Donna Johns did visit Legion Park and that she was accepting of communication from park visitors, I guess that particular day, probably when most of us were working, and that she had listened to them and she had taken their input into consideration. And it was also noted that this was during her campaign period. I believe she was elected in 2022. I've been trying to follow this park and trying to comment on it for years now. The first time that it was ever mentioned to be on an agenda, a public agenda for discussion, was January 2023. It was a Board of County Commission meeting, excuse me, in late January, and it was on the agenda, and then it was stricken before the actual meeting, so it was taken off that agenda. It was moved to Donna John's 2024 April Town Hall that was to be held at the Hilton in Miramar Beach. That meeting was later canceled. The next time that I could find evidence of this park being on a meeting was the December 2024 Destination Improvement Committee, TDC meeting, and this was in December. I don't know what day it was, but it was canceled altogether. So I personally felt that the first time this park has ever received adequate consideration and reasonable consideration of public concerns is when we had come and spoken with you, Mr. Schoen, back in, I think it was June, because you clearly said that there's a missing aspect of public input in these plans, and it's so obvious, and these plans are just so wrong to be on such an environmentally sensitive area, but yet they're being pushed down our throats. We had 75 people show up to the meeting, and after the meeting, people were saying, they were saying vulgar things, they were saying we weren't heard, I mean, it was, we have the whole recording. I believe that you guys have the recording as well. And we were basically told during that meeting that if we wanted to participate in government, that this was told to us by Brian Kellenberger with Donna Johns present, that we should vote. And so when we vote for commissioners, that commissioner then hires staff to make decisions or to carry out those decisions or something to that effect. But we were basically completely negated. Everything, every comment, concern that we brought up, instead of, I mean, it was all just deflected and immediately defended. Their plans were just defended continually. And we were even told that the supporters of the plans were afraid to show up. And so it's like, here we've come to defend the natural environment so many times, but yet these people that want to destroy the natural environment somehow don't show up all the time. And I don't know how that happens, but I want to thank you for listening to us in June and giving that opportunity to have a public meeting. I think it was about an hour in, a resident hollered out and said, "We're not getting anywhere. This is a pretty contentious meeting. This meeting should be held in a more organized format. A format that we have today, I think, would be a more conducive, more productive conversation, or to be able to make plans. But instead, these plans seem to have been made kind of in the dark of night for unknown people and then just pushed on us. And there were a lot of people at that meeting that called out just the complete non-transparency of these plans. I saw somewhere, I think it might have been the staff report that suggested the last major update was mentioned in 2014 for this park. And I just wanted to make a note that that's was actually incorrect. There was the May 2018 Dewberry contract for the seawall and the drainage that somehow bypassed the whole planning and technical committees. And then there was also the construction of the pickleball courts, apparently paved by Smokey in 2021, that also did not come through this board. There was no public input. And these are recreational lands. It was originally developed with the natural resources, and we were hopeful that we could save some of those natural resources. In there was a couple different responses from Barge from the engineering review, and one of them included an attachment C, which is the turnaround radius for the park. And interestingly, they show, because this was a very contentious topic of the fact the plans have never allowed adequate and safe turnaround. We've been at the park during summertime, and It can get very crowded with trailers at times. There's 11 to, I think I've counted maybe 12 boats, full-size boats and trailers. Right now, you can't get much of a boat in Legion Park, but during the summer when the water comes up, there are frequently very large boats. And I would like to get more of those photos together to show that. I mean, this is a boat launch. This isn't a kayak launch. It's not a skiff launch. This time of year, it is crazy. I mean, Crab Island is out of the water right now. It's actually an island. So I think right now, today's observations of Legion Park may not look like this is a boating area, but it actually is. It is a boat ramp, and it is a little bit tricky getting in and out of there, but I think it's only been aggravated by the introduction of the stormwater pipe that's underground, bringing in a lot of sedimentation and actually resulting in more shallow water there. And that same concept has been mentioned around Sandestin area and some other areas in Miramar Beach, where these outflows are reducing the depth of the water due to the increased sedimentation coming through. There's a application for environmental resource permit, state 404 program permit on file. And this permit states that the construction, this project is for the construction and operation of new works. That box is checked off. What is not checked off is where it states operation of an existing unpermitted work, activity, and or stormwater management. The applicant on this is Brian Kellenberger as Beach Operations Director. It states that this states that section D, that it's, that part of the improvements are improved driveway, dedicated vehicle and boat trailer parking, stormwater improvements and modifications. And there doesn't seem to be, now on the plans, the boat parking seems to be completely eliminated. So I don't know if you recall the first time that we had looked at this, they had boat parking. I think it was 5 separate slots with line parking, and that parking is no longer on the plan whatsoever. This application is marked as not belonging to a larger plan or development, and that's section L. And so this plan, the stormwater plan, actually is part of a larger development. But again, there's no transparency on the stormwater that has been put into this park. This suggests the post-construction is a different square footage as the other reports. Part 2 is a supplemental information and permit history. It states that is this an application to modify an existing ERP permit? No. And then it says, if yes, please provide permit numbers below. So it is marked as no, but then there's actually a permit number that's listed, which is the Legion Park Pond Maintenance. So there's a conflict there where it states that it's not modification, but then there's an existing as if it is a modification. I believe this is the report that actually mentioned the deed. The applicant, again, was listed as Brian Kellenberger, Director of Beach Operations. I would like to mention, with his new appointment as County Administrator, I feel that they're most likely people on this board whose employment is either directly or indirectly influenced by him. And so I feel like that there is kind of a conflict there. And I mean, I understand that. It's hard to go against the boss sometimes. This application is undated. There's no dates whatsoever on it. And there's 3 signatures on it. And the signature section states Stan Sunday, and it appears to be signed by Stan Sunday. No dates. And of course, Stan Sunday, I believe, was forced to retire earlier this year for, I'm not exactly sure of the details, but This is the Department of the Army permit that has actually been approved, and it was approved for an address stated as 1498 Ponce de Leon Street. And that may have just been an error in the address, but it just seems like there's a lot of errors in these. I had seen other errors in planning department developments in our neighborhood, warehouses that were built 5 years ago, and they were supposed to be 42,000 square feet, or they were under 50,000 square feet. The end result was over 62,000 square feet. And when I asked about it, I was told that, oh, it was just an error in the application. You know, so they approved 42, but they built 62, and it was just blown off as an error. So I wanted to point out some of these errors. The existing conditions, for example, state that there's a tennis court at Legion Park, and there is no tennis court. So if the third-party company that came in to basically plan and draw this park and these plans, if they're making those kind of errors, what kind of larger errors are they making? I looked into Barge Solutions, and it appears that they've been involved in some projects in the state of Florida. If I recall, it might have been in Orlando, maybe some medical offices, maybe a medical office in Fort Walton, but it didn't look like they had any like park. I didn't really see anything that really showed that they were some kind of specialist in the field, and I couldn't find any evidence of this project even put out to bid for different companies to help with these plans. It seems that Barge was just hired to do this. This is from Barge Solutions. This is one of the public meeting notes. This is dated July 11th, 2025. And Barge states, the county is also aware of off-site drainage into the park and will have to be addressed as well in the design and permitting stage by the engineers. And it seems that the addressing of the stormwater has been essentially to cut off the park, the whole side of the park that's not in compliance with state or federal regulations for stormwater. So now when you look at the plans today, one notable difference is that it shows that the limits of site disturbance start just to the right of the driveway coming into the park, not on the right property line as they originally were. And it seems that that was simply just cut out in an attempt to avoid the permitting and avoid the response for the DEP permit. Choctawhatchee Bay is a Class 2 receiving body. I think that means that there's basically wildlife in it that's used for consumption, and it's, quite frankly, it's irresponsible and it's disgusting to allow this kind of pollution of stormwater going into the bay and then trying to accommodate pickleball courts and increased impervious surfaces, increasing more stormwater into the bay, and then calling it, just a drainage buffer. I built a home across the street a couple years back, and we have a pond in our yard, literally a dry, it's a dry retention pond. And we just have a little 1,500 square foot house, and half of our yard is literally just a huge pond. Such a pond that I've caught South Walton Mosquito Control shooting chemicals over my fence into my backyard, and I had a nice conversation with them one day at 7 a.m. This is a document dated January 21st, 2026. As a condition of engineering approval, documentation of FDEP permit approving the proposed vegetative natural buffer, which is governed by FDEP guidance, should be submitted prior to the commencement of construction. And this is from Walton County Engineering, Wyatt Rothwell to Bob Barantoni, dated January 21st, 2026. It seems that the reliance on a state permitting would actually not be correct, that according to the FDEP, it should actually be a federal permit. And that was, again, in that letter to Brian Kellenberger back in May. This is from October 13th, 2025. This is a response from Barge to Walton County. Walton County requested a stormwater analysis for the proposed improvements in accordance with LDC section 5.0600, and that references a hydrologic report. I'd like to point out that the LDC actually requires national permitting to discharge to surface waters. And so I should hope that a drainage buffer or draining into the bay, that is actually a discharge into the surface waters of Choctawhatchee Bay. And so I do believe that even the drainage buffers that are proposed today, aside from the whole east side of the park being used for drainage right now, that even the west side of the park would not be a state permit, it would actually be a federal permit for draining into the bay there. There was mention about public safety and the boat ramp and people using that for access. And there was mention that slips, trips, and falls were noted, I believe, by your department. And it doesn't look like that was actually really addressed. Barge basically said that there's no new concrete plan for that area. And it was requested for some type of V-groove ramp finish to assist with safety. Throughout the review, throughout the plans, there's mention of a shallow swale along the northern right-of-way associated with Crest Drive. And there is no shallow swale anywhere on Crest Drive. There's no ditch there. It seems like this, I believe, was worked into the plans to help with the, this plan to redirect more stormwater to the bay so that more construction can happen, more development can happen, because this particular area was, there were a lot of homes that were flooding due to construction and development. And that was brought to Walton County's attention. It's in plenty of meetings. And that is not, the solution for that was clearly to redirect the stormwater to Legion Park. There was, on the plans, it appeared that there's only a 1-inch pipe servicing the park at this time from the water department. And the letter for availability was dated August 7th, and it only had a 30-day validity date. But it seems like there was some question on whether the park, even the water source, can actually accommodate splash pads and the increased water usage there. I'd like to touch on, everyone had some really, really great comments, but I'm not going to repeat every single one of them. I would mention that the CDC had a study. I can't remember the exact years. It was maybe an 8-year study. It ended in 2022. Florida was tied with one other state for being the highest in the country of having bacterial infections due to splash pads, clearly due to our tropical weather, I'm sure. But we are tied with another state. We were mentioned 8 times in the CDC report for having bacteria in splash pads. There are splash pads, I believe, at shopping malls within 2 miles of the site in either direction. Maybe Destin Commons might be 3 miles. But as Mother had mentioned earlier today, there's a lot of people that come to this park because they're avoiding those places. I specifically remember at the meeting in the summer that there was at least one other she said that they come to Legion Park because it's one of the few parks that doesn't have a splash pad. And for health reasons, her children had, I don't know if it's autoimmune issues, but she said that if they go near a splash pad, the children, of course, want to play in a splash pad, but she doesn't want them to because of health concerns. So it's unfortunate. People come and speak at every meeting we can, and there was a lot that showed up, thanks to you calling that meeting. But unfortunately, overall, none of the comments were really, I shouldn't say none of the comments. It was very much appreciated that it looked like throughout the park that it looked like Bermuda grass had been chosen, which is more, or Bahama. I can't remember what it is, but it's more, it's a less maintenance intensive grass, less fertilizer. There was still some St. Augustine, which still seems like an odd choice because St. Augustine, according to the extension office, that it doesn't do well, that it requires fertilizer and it doesn't do well in high traffic areas, which doesn't seem to make sense in a public park, which would be high traffic. I think the sod has actually been replaced at least 3 times over now, and it can't grow. And now the county is installing irrigation systems that are further going to bring more water into the ground. On the topic of water, with the irrigation and the splash pad, Walton County is actually has been designated by the Northwest Florida Water Management District as a water resource danger area. I can't remember the exact terminology, but essentially we don't know where our water source, our drinking water source, is going to come from. And I think it was 10 or 15, it might have been 20 years from now. So I hope that the future source of water consumption would be taken into account when approving things such as splash pads that I believe I don't know the exact usage of water for this splash pad, but it is, it just doesn't seem to make sense to use potable water for recreational purposes when we already are aware and know of a shortage for just for regular household use. I love Las Vegas, and I guess they're not going to be there in 50 years because they can't figure out how to keep water there. The barge response had referenced the hydrologic report, and the maps in the hydrology report do not match the maps. The maps and plans that I most recently reviewed were dated in December, and they said that they were ERP submittal plans, so I assume that those were the most accurate, most up-to-date plans. And so the plans in the water report did not match that. I'd like to point out that throughout the report, the park size, even just the land mass on this property, it's mentioned as 3.4 acres. On the hydro reports, it's 3.16 acres on the staff reporting and survey. I think that's important if the land mass is being overstated in a water management report, because that would artificially inflate the area of impervious surface versus pervious surface. If the total land mass is overstated, then the asphalt to total land mass would be skewed. There was another, on the deed, it's 3.54 acres. But of course, that was a long time ago. I don't know what happened to that land. But there are variations in even just the staff reports versus the engineered studies. Pickleball I think it's under 100 feet from homes, completely incompatible. I mean, it's a shame that the Board of County Commissioners is too busy talking about beach chairs and not dealing with something like this, while they're pushing forward with plans to put these incompatible uses of in front of our homes. As I mentioned, cities are closing pickleball. Boise, Idaho, Los Angeles is having issues. I think there was New York. I Googled on the way here, and it was an article posted 2 hours ago somewhere in Florida, another lawsuit with an HOA. Hillsborough County actually attempted to put in some legislation and address the issue in their county, but they were held up by Senate Bill 180, and so they actually requested an Attorney General opinion for Senate Bill 180's effect on pickleball regulation. The lighting is a concern. Right now the park is very dark. The park is in the direct flight line of Eglin Air Force Base. There are flights that come in nonstop every night, and not every night, but there are a lot of flights that come in, and I didn't see, normally there's like an actual letter from Eglin, and I didn't see that in the packet. I do know that the properties in our neighborhood, originally when they were released by the government, they were sold to different commanders of the Air Force Base because the land was essentially deemed as like kind of undevelopable because it was in the flight pattern. So that's a concern, to be increasing the lighting there, as well as attracting visitors to the park overnight, as well as just light and its effects, on nearby homes. I think I've mentioned it already, the right-of-way is, to me, that's kind of a thing, is that it doesn't seem to be being addressed in this process. It just states that Barge needs to work with Public Works on the right-of-way. And again, the maps show 66 foot of right-of-way on Crest Drive. And there are plats, the most recently platted subdivision from the year 2000 shows only a 18.5-foot asphalt road and a much, I can't remember the exact right of way, but I can't help but think that maybe that was purposely excluded from this, being that there are 3 surrounding plats and one was not included. And that one actually has Crest Drive on that. There were 5 affected property owners by that right of way. One of the plans suggests that the contractor needs to install a construction exit, which seemed a little bit, you know, I mean, it's just odd that they would need to install a construction exit. So if there's any chance that this is moving forward, I just wanted to notate that. It states no vegetation to be disturbed except for grading. And what's crazy is that the entire park is slated to raise a foot, an entire foot. And it's very strange that you would take a natural park and raise it over 12 inches. Why? I believe it's due to the extreme increase of stormwater that has gone into this park. The plans call for a concrete washdown and fueling station, which seems quite odd. The plans mention the tennis courts there. If they're making errors on what type of existing conditions, like a court that's there, it makes me question some of the details, like what else could be wrong or missing from this. It mentions contractor would have office trailers on location and a concrete truck washout, a washdown fueling facility. I was reading this and I thought to myself, is someone connected planning on bidding this in the neighborhood down the road that was approved, you know, once they figured out all this flooding and how to get all the water into the bay? And the terminology for the water, it's a water resource caution area is what that is. When I had mentioned I couldn't remember the terminology on it. But I found that was interesting, being in the water resource caution area, and then the water department basically doesn't have, there's no availability letter at this time, it doesn't appear to be. I think it said the contractor would have to verify availability of the water, and it indicated that that they would have to tap into the water main down the street, I think, as well. The water report mentions that it's based on a 2-year, 24-hour storm. And that was just kind of surprising that it would be a 2-year storm. We had to do the 25-year storm, and I thought that the 25-year storm was the minimum, you know, for construction. Overall, the site layout, this is in reference to L1.00, and this is the plan that's called overall site layout. States right on the face of it, all topographic and boundary info taken by others. So does that mean you can't rely on it? Are they putting it off on someone else? Then footnote 2 states barge assumes no responsibility for utility boundary existing conditions shown, implied, or omitted. So to me, that statement almost makes me question the validity of the entire engineered plans if they assume no responsibility for those plans. Footnote 6 says, do not scale off the drawing. Does that mean that the drawing is not scalable? It's an engineered plan for, you know, a serious development, I thought. Additionally, it mentions all layouts subject to approval by owner. And that comment, I think that was on the 12/11/25 plans. And I haven't seen where any review, you know, where the final plans have actually even been presented to the BCC, who I thought would have to approve the plans before moving forward with the development order as property owner, I would think. But there's seemingly no Board of County Commission approval or review of the most recent plans. There's a note that says that the sidewalks need to drain towards the street, which just seemed kind of odd when asphalt is negatively affected by water and water intrusion hurts asphalt. So unless there's other plans for stormwater conveyance, that aren't part of this project, it just seemed like an odd thing that the sidewalks would all be forced to put the stormwater into the street. On the site data summary, on this states 17 regular parking spaces and 5 large spaces, but those 5 large spaces are mentioned on the plans, but they don't seem to be part of the plans anymore. So again, there's just kind of ambiguity of what exactly are the current plans. They've been changed so many times without any meetings. It mentions that the lighting layout assumes correct layout and construction of horizontal concrete elements. Again, it seems to be kind of bypassing, whether the horizontal concrete elements are even depicted accurately in the plans. I am very interested in the gallonage of water of use per day. Currently, the park can accommodate over 30 cars, and it seems like these plans are really limiting the public's access to this park. And it seems to be the comprehensive plan's intent to not limit or reduce the public's access to a park like they did at Hagen Park for some unknown reason. I'm guessing that probably didn't come through this office. It was mentioned about public safety and congestion at the boat ramp. There's a lot right now. There's the only water access to the bay at Legion Park is at the boat ramp, and I think we've mentioned it before, but it's very scary when you're backing down a boat ramp and there's kids playing in the water there. Just having that access and the only other access into the bay at Legion Park right there seems to increase or decrease the public safety there. I prepared a letter, but I think you probably have, I very much appreciate your patience in hearing me. I haven't even touched on the actual park plans, but I just wanted to bring some of these concerns to light and kind of reiterate some of the issues with the lack of the lack of protected species, the seemingly lack of approval by the historic department within Florida. And I am extremely concerned about the water at Legion Park and the redirection of local stormwaters to this park. Living across the street, when we first built our home, we had shallow swales, and we used to mow them with a lawnmower. We would just mow them. It was a dry area. There was just there was a closed basin on the east side of the park that accepted very, very little stormwater. Well, there were some projects in this area that were approved without proper water permitting, and whatever the problem was, it caused great flooding here. And Walton County's solution to that was to come in and dig extremely deep ditches to redirect all of the water into Legion's Park. I've got videos, I've got photos, I've got of just sedimentation filled water pouring into this park. It's never been permitted correctly. And quite frankly, I'm concerned because when we built our house, we weren't planning on being the stormwater pond of Miramar Beach. And so when we built our house and we had our 50-page stormwater report done and our volume calculations, and we couldn't allow any lateral flow, we had to keep every bit of stormwater that our home caused on our own property. We weren't taking, our engineers didn't take into account the fact that the county would come in and start digging ditches so deep that now all the stormwater that used to affect all the properties nearby now sits in front of our home and Legion Park, bringing in mosquitoes, mosquito-borne diseases, snakes. That's what vegetative buffers bring, or, snakes, rats, I don't know what. But this park is now, it's ruined. It floods during the slightest bit of rain, and now they want to come in and they just want to build it up and fill more sand on it, you know, to make the water go away, when the water is very important to be filtering back into the ground, into the aquifer, because if the aquifer isn't recharged by all the stormwater, which it's not now, it all goes into the bay, but that aggravates the water issues of tomorrow. And so increasing all this impervious surface and then redirecting the water into the bay causes issues with that. The ditches that have been constructed on Crest Drive are extremely dangerous and they're deep. I don't think that they're in compliance with the FDOT Green Book that states, I think it's a 3-1 slope. And these ditches, and I think it's supposed to be so many feet off the side of the road. And there's a lot of concern in this area. And so I'm hopeful that that you'll take our concerns and hopefully push this to a major development to allow more adequate input. Just recently, Walton County had the Eastern Lake Regional Access, and they took the time and had an actual meeting where people could come and present, and then the county took that information to design their plans. And I think that you all know, I hope that you know, that clearly these plans have not had adequate public comment consideration, and that there's a lot of alarming issues in them. So I'm very hopeful, Mr. Schoen, that you may push this. I don't think it's fair to you to have to make this decision, and I'm hopeful that you'll push this to the elected leaders of our county to make the final decision on this park in the future, because it does affect generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Moss. That was a very in-depth analysis, and I do appreciate your efforts in creating that. Thank you. Anyone else who did not speak would like to come up? All right, what I'm going to ask for is about 5 minutes for a break. I drank my coffee too fast. I apologize. I will ask the applicant to come and address all of the things that you wish to address, and then I may have some questions afterward. So we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Order. All right. If the applicant wants to come up, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Melissa, are you ready to go? I'm good. All right. Thank you. Good morning. I wasn't here during your introduction, so I'm just covering all my bases here. Good morning.
Morning, sir. Yeah, Nathan Hayden, Barge Design Solutions.
Welcome.
I guess first and foremost, I just want to say very complete, thorough feedback from the public on this project. Especially some of the research that Ms. Moss had done, very enlightening. So, I do have a few items that I would like to address before, if you've got any major questions, some of those may be in here. And it kind of goes in order of the public's comments. So I think first and foremost, there was some discussion about the sidewalks still being installed over the routes. We've removed that. As far as the plan for the trees on the site, there was some concern about the removal of trees. Just wanted to highlight that, yes, we are taking out 7 trees on the site. One of those is an invasive species in the buffer area to the southwest of the project, but we are planting 7 oaks and a magnolia on the site. So the overall reduction as those develop is positive.
So you're removing 7 trees and planting 8? Is that what you said? All right, and one of those is an invasive species?
Correct.
Invasive species, okay. Thank you. And when I first got in, Ms. Schultz indicated to me that you weren't gonna plant, our minimum caliper sort of planting, that you would be looking to plant ones that are a little bit more mature, is that correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
And what does that look like? What's, is that a 30-gallon tree? Is that what are we talking about?
I know that on the piece that we referenced earlier was specific to the pickleball. So the trees that are planted to the south of the pickleball court are 5 to 6 foot in height. As far as
I think our minimum's 8 foot, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I'll verify that one.
Yeah. Make sure you look at the code here. I could be thinking of a.
Oh, okay. And that's not these oak trees that I'm talking about. That's a different species that's adjacent to the pickleball court.
Okay, so it's not one of these required plantings. Is that what you're saying? It's just in addition to our required plantings, then we wouldn't stipulate the size of the planting.
Correct, yes, sir.
Now, you started by saying that the sidewalks that the folks had some concern with in terms of cutting off root structure or impacting the tree health. You're saying that those portions of the sidewalk were removed? They're no longer being proposed?
Correct, yes, sir. We had a root bridge sidewalk proposed in the prior set of plans, and that complete section of sidewalk has been removed from the plans.
Okay. What is a root bridge sidewalk?
It's got a
raised?
different, it still has a concrete top, but it's got different type of gravel subbase to allow for movement of that route.
I see. Okay.
As I'm trying to find our planting plan here to give you the accurate information on the tree sizes.
And are the remaining, and you continue to look, please, but are the remaining sidewalks, are they concrete or are they an alternative type material?
They're all concrete, yes,
Okay.
sir. As far as the oaks that are planted, 4-inch caliper, 6 foot clear trunk. Imagine that makes them a little bit taller than if there is an 8 foot, but it doesn't, I don't have that specification here.
6 foot clear trunk would mean prior to any branches?
Yes, sir.
Okay, understood. That sounds like it's definitely exceeding our standard there, but thank you for looking into that. Please continue.
Sure. Same public comment or same comment, or there was a comment rather about providing capacity for larger boats, extra vendors. We are not doing any type of dredging to expand or attract more larger boats to this. That was never the intent of the design.
Has there been dredging here in the past? Is that just to provide safe access, or will there continue to be this sort of maintenance of that access that would require dredging? But you're saying there's not any additional dredging that would increase the capacity or size of boat available?
Correct. Yeah, we're
Okay.
not planning any dredging in that area, no, sir.
Okay.
As far as the parking area, I did want to clarify that from the original plan that was proposed to the area that is shown here now in this current plan is actually larger. So we are still reconfiguring the area on the west side of the parking area, but instead of the reconfiguration that we had planned for the diagonal parking for those boats, we've left the existing conditions, which actually makes that area larger. I don't have an exhibit handy, but I just wanted to make and clarify that comment that the parking that's happening now today, however they're accomplishing that with boats coming in and out, it's going to be the same configuration after the construction's complete.
So, just so I can wrap my head around, are we talking about what appears to be a sort of a larger gravelled area?
On the east side of the,
So north of the access way and to the east, that's the current layout? Or
Yes,
that's
sir.
where the boat and trailer parking is?
correct, yes, sir.
And that will remain?
Yes, sir.
And there's five spots?
So we don't have any designated parking. So that was something from feedback from citizens. They felt that by saying, hey, you must park here ABC, that it would actually reduce the amount or effectiveness of the parking. So we have eliminated a designated parking on those boat areas or where they currently park their trailers.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm sorry.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so currently there are about 5 spots. They're currently not designated as such. There's just about room for 5, and there will remain about that same space.
Yes, sir. However, they can get creative on that.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So same comment on the parking. So we are adding some spaces along the west side of the entrance road there with 2 designated ADA parking spots that will have access to the sidewalks. Just wanted to emphasize that, you know, the intent there and the intent of the sidewalks in general is to provide accessibility to the entire park that does not currently exist.
Sure. Understood. Now, just in terms of parking, I see it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 proposed within the Crest Drive right-of-way. Is that accurate?
Yes, parallel parking along Crest, yes, sir.
Is that, are those currently, are there stalls there currently, or is it just,
It's currently just a grass area.
folks park there now?
Yes, sir.
Based on aerial? Okay, so we're just improving that area to make access easier. Now, how wide is the right-of-way there? I know that was a concern. It's probably on your list of things to address. And I just want to make sure, and I'm sure Ms. Moss understands that there's a difference between right-of-way width and asphalt width, right? The roadway width itself. So how wide is that right-of-way?
Currently shown on the survey, it's designating a 66-foot right-of-way, but that's, you know, right-of-way to right-of-way. I'm not sure that I totally understand the
I think
question.
it's typical, that 66-foot right-of-way, and it's hard for me to see there. It does look like it says 66. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Okay, thank you. Was that not in your packet previously? Let's address that after the applicant finishes his address here. please, Ms. Moss, thank you. Continue, please, thank you.
Sure. As far as I think there were some very recent reports of gopher tortoise in the wooded area. We did do an environmental assessment. We did have a certified agent go to the site and review the site. Didn't see anything, granted that was some time ago, but we can certainly have another inspection done of the site prior to any construction activities.
And just to be clear, when we move forward with construction and we allow construction on any site, the code mandates that if a species, an endangered species is identified, construction will cease and that species will be addressed in accordance with any federal or state regulations. Right.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I think it also goes on to say that in any type of new development area, you cannot leave them on a quote-unquote island, and that's basically what this current condition is. There's no way for them to migrate or move.
Understood. Without putting themselves in further
Correct. Yes, sir.
peril.
Yeah.
Right.
So if we did find one, it would likely have to be relocated regardless.
Right, and it would more likely be relocated to Nakusi lands within the county. Yeah, understood.
Right. There was a comment about no bicycle racks being provided. There is a bicycle rack that we've added to the plans close to the restroom facility. So I just wanted to make a note that that is in our current plans.
Where is the restroom facility? Is that next to the basketball court there?
So if you see where the splash pad circle is,
yeah,
it's directly south of that. It's like on an angle. Facility.
How many bicycle slots are we talking about?
I think there were 4, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Nancy Preo with Walton, she noted that we do need to add one, so we'll have to make a revision to that and add another hoop to that rack.
Okay, yeah, just to meet the bike standards in the code. Understood. Do you see, I'm assuming you've been on site. Have you seen a number of bikes there? Do we need to consider adding further stalls for bikes, or is it, or is there more pedestrian traffic that enters it?
I've been out there a handful of times. I'm not a regular user of the site, but there were, the day that we had the public meeting, there were quite a few families and folks out there. So it's not a bad idea to consider an additional bike rack, maybe near one of the pavilions.
I would just suggest that, obviously, I'm not gonna create some sort of condition that exceeds the land development code, but I would strongly suggest that if there is additional bicycle traffic that might be provided some means of parking, that would be appropriate, I believe.
All right. There was a comment about some of the traffic along Bayshore, some of the boats coming down Bayshore having to do turns and come back into the park area. That is something that we weren't originally scoped with, but adding some signs is something that's pretty easy to do to the plans. I did also want to make a note that as far as there was a comment about the fence, the perimeter fence on the very west side of the project heading straight north and cutting off that area. We are going to go around that current asphalt pad. So there's no plans to change the configuration at the end of Bayshore.
Okay. Will there be like a pedestrian gate or something right there?
Yes, sir. Yeah, there's currently a cut through, and we're going to leave that in place.
I see. And that is part of the property, though, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that a continuation of the Bayshore right-of-way, or does that end at the property line?
I believe that the pad that we're leaving in place is actually within the Walton County property line.
Okay.
So it would be something that ultimately Walton County would have to maintain, Parks versus Public Works Street.
Sure. And it seems to me that signage, while appropriate at what I have written here as the intersection at Bayshore and Geronimo, is certainly off-site. So I don't know how that would be tied into this particular development, but I think the county should consider some signage at that intersection at minimum. Okay, what else?
Let's see. list here. There were some comments, concerns about the utilities, the water supply to the site. I just wanted to clarify that the splash pad and how that functions is that while it is connected to potable water, it has a sump basin that it fills, and once it fills to a certain level, it's not requiring constant pressure from the potable water source. So it recirculates the water within that sump system.
Sure. And that sump system is treated with some sort of antibacterial or other means to hopefully remove some of the concerns about Giardia and some of these other little nasty bugs that we deal with here in Florida.
Yes, sir. Very similar to, I think there's 2, if not 3 other splash pads that Walton County is currently maintaining. But yes, it has a chemical treatment as well as UV treatment within the system.
Very good.
On that same topic, the planned irrigation for the site near Crest Drive is going to be installed on a well system. It will not be connected to a potable source.
Yeah, I was sure that was the case, as we typically see here, so.
Covered. Okay, so as far as I think there's a big concern about the stormwater runoff and how that's to be handled or questions, concerns there. As was pointed out, during the application process, the current dry detention on the east side of the project was found to have some prior permitting challenges, and then, that basically increased into a much larger scope for barge. So we proposed an idea or a plan to separate those 2 systems. So if there's any need for stormwater improvements on that detention basin, that's going to be through separate engineering efforts.
That's on the east side, abutting the larger gravel area for the turnaround and parking?
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay. And does that pond currently collect from the abutting neighboring developments as the applicants have indicated? Or not the neighbors, excuse me, have indicated?
Yeah, that is our understanding. So at the intersection of Crest Drive and the entrance road to the park there, the roadside ditches collect water, and then that's what's feeding into that detention pond. So it's bringing off-site.
But as part of this proposed plan, there's some additional stormwater retention or detention areas?
No, sir. So because of the restrictions of the groundwater table and the development code saying that you have to have a minimum footage from groundwater to the bottom of the basin, we weren't able to do retention within the park limits.
How is stormwater being addressed?
So it is through a time of concentration, and that's part of the buffers. So the buffers not only do a water quality, but then that actually slows down some of the discharge into the bay. So it allows the water to hold on site a little bit longer.
And that's what would be called a B&P, I'm assuming? That buffering would be a best management practice in terms of stormwater management?
Yes, sir. So throughout the interaction with DEP, during our pre-application meeting early on, they recommended that we explore the use of what they were terming vegetative natural buffers. And as we progressed through the application process, DEP, they changed direction. And since these are not native plants in this area, we're proposing plantings for these, and that they have changed the terminology to an alternative vegetative buffer. So it's a best management practice.
Okay. So the site is graded into these buffers?
Correct, yes, sir. So the entire site drains kind of a north-northwest with the ultimate outfall on that northwest corner. So everything from the entrance road and the parking area is draining to the west.
And then everything from the east is essentially being left as it is currently? Okay. Okay.
I guess the last piece, or last comment there, as far as permitting, agencies, jurisdiction, again, very thorough analysis, but to our knowledge, the two permitting agencies would be the Corps of Engineers and Florida Department of Environmental Protection. So we've applied for both of those permits, and everything that we've got as far as restrictions on the site, and of course, Walton County's development codes, those are the jurisdictions that we're adhering to.
Sure. And can you speak to any of those inconsistencies in terms of site area and those sort of things in the applications that Ms. Moss had brought up?
Yeah, that was a good observation. Based on actual scaled measurements, the area is a larger at that 3.34, 3.35 acres versus the surveyed that we have in our plans of 3.16. So in my opinion, that's an error on the surveyor that was provided in the plans. So the calculations as far as runoff against a larger area, it's not detrimental into the point where we're calculating less runoff. So we're calculating using that larger area.
See. Okay. Okay, anything else there?
No, sir, I don't have anything else to comment on, but here for any questions you might have.
Okay. So, because I missed kind of the opening, I do have a question or just more of a request. If you could summarize what has changed in the plan for me from the original that we heard previously and tabled to what's being presented now. I don't need, full detailed report here, just sort of a quick summary if you could for me.
So as far as changes, it's concentrating on the gravel parking area between boat ramp and the entrance road. We've left the configuration on that east side as it currently is. So that was the one change to the parking area, no longer designating those parallel parking spots for the boats. There was some sidewalk. If you look, I guess just north of the splash pad, there's a pavilion out in the middle of a cluster of trees. We had sidewalk that kind of meandered through those trees and connected back down toward the splash pad. So all of that sidewalk has been removed, A, to protect those trees, and B, to keep some of the sheet flow and satisfy DEP permitting requirements. Apart from that, we did add, again, some of the vegetative buffer near the pickleball courts. I don't think there were any other major changes that I recall at this point.
Now, I understand from the neighbors that there is some concern about noise with the pickleball courts in particular. I myself am not familiar with the activity, so I can't speak intelligently on it at all. But there does appear to be, based on their testimony, that there is some sort of, or comments, excuse me, that there is some understanding that anything less than 100 foot away and you're going to exceed some sort of decibel level that they've found undesirable. Is that an accurate statement for them to make? Have you considered any sort of sound attenuation other than buffering, sound walls or anything like that may help appease some of that?
Apart from the vegetation that was planted near the pickleball courts, there were no discussions about, but no decisions to do any sound studies. It's not currently in the development code.
It's not, no.
Yeah, we've got, I can't say that it's not noisy, but you do have other activities going on in the same vicinity, basketball, boats launching, so there's...
It's a public space, I understand that.
Yes, sir.
Now, in terms of the noise ordinance that we currently have in place with the county here, hours of operation, are we limiting this in accordance with the provisions of the code in terms of, will the gates around the courts be locked at a certain time, unlocked at a certain time? Has that been part of any conversation?
Sure. That currently up to Walton County operations and how they want to manage that. We've got we can edit, change however you want. I think currently they're on photo cells on the lights. If you wanted those to operate longer, they can be changed over to timers. Locks can be put on the gates. There are some gates on the pickleball courts. There's no gates around the splash pad, playground, or basketball courts.
In terms of lighting, is the lighting that was discussed previously, was that an accurate statement? There's 20-foot monopoles or whatever being added to portions of the site, and is that for nighttime operation up till 10 p.m., which I think is where our noise ordinance currently limits? Will there be night play on the courts? Is that what the lighting is for?
So the lighting was not intended for the courts, to light the courts up.
Okay.
They're placed throughout the park.
I see.
There are some provisions that we're providing ground boxes if you wanted to do court lighting at a later date. That's Walton County's, decision, but no, we did not add court-specific lighting to this plan.
Okay, so it's more just for safety lighting along trails and parking lot and those sort of things.
Correct, yes, sir, and that can be adjusted to cut on and off whatever time you choose.
Sure, and I mean that's going to be up to admin and Parks and Rec and the ideas about the operation there, understandably. So, in terms of shielding though of these lights, will they be shielded from the surrounding neighbors? Will they meet our current lighting standards in terms of foot candles, which I know is sort of an antiquated measure, but that's what the code requires. So, is that?
Yes, so they're full cutoff lights, so they're pointed down. It's not going to emit light out, but there is a photometric study in here, and it does adhere to all local development codes.
Okay, thank you. And bear with me here. I'm just going to kind of go down my questions here. And Andrea, if either of you have any questions, please jump in at any time here. I'm just working through some of my own stuff. Ms. Moss brought up some requests from the DEP in terms of their permitting review. Have those been successfully addressed with the Department of Environmental Protection? Excuse me.
So we do have our most recent RAI. Those responses went back to DEP a week ago Friday. So they've had those for a week and a half. They're required with their 30-day review to get those back to us.
Yeah.
And it's totally surrounding time of concentration, nutrient reduction on the site to make sure that our plan, which we have proposed, is meeting all of their requirements.
Okay, understood. And just for the public's knowledge, we do not have the ability to hold up development approvals based on outside agency permitting. However, we do require copies of the approved permits prior to development of the site itself. Now, you said we do have an EA on file, and there was no species of concern identified on the site. I understand that the neighbors have identified some species they have concern about, understanding that there's some seasonal movement that may or may not have been addressed during the original site visit. As I expressed, if there is a species identified during any sort of development activities, development will cease until those species are addressed in accordance with other agency standards. Historical archaeological resources, was that part of the EA?
As far as historical resources, no, sir, I don't believe so.
Okay, so that is a requirement in the code that we do address historical resources.
Okay. I'll have to reference the EA then to
we'll have to, yeah, we need to cover that base with certainty. And then, so there was some conversation about the BLM restrictions in some 1968 deed. Is that, was that reviewed as part of any of that? I know Ms. Moss has done some serious work with this, but I want to make sure that that seems like it, and it may have been some sort of agreement or something at the time. I don't know if there was a lifespan on it. I do think, though, that if this site was limited by the BLM to recreational purposes, I don't think what's being proposed is out of line here. I think any recreation use would come with necessary infrastructure, including parking and access and those sort of things. But I want to make sure that we are reviewing all the pertinent documentation.
I can't be for certain if that specific document was referenced, no, sir.
Understood. Let's take some time to make sure that we are looking at some of these things. Please.
I did want to go back to the gopher tortoise habitat. There was a question I forgot to address earlier. Someone asked about the vegetative buffer on that southwest corner being completely cleared and planted. That is not the case. So the vegetation that is there now is going to stay in place with the exception of the removal of that one invasive species.
Okay, so the full growth or the mature trees that are identified in that image there are remaining, other than the one species that is invasive?
Correct, yes, sir.
That's good, thank you. So based on the previous comments there, both from you and from the neighbors, and your indication that you are not placing concrete in a way that would disturb the remaining trees' health. Can you speak to that just a little bit more for the sake of the board and the public here? Are the sidewalks that are proposed remaining outside of drip lines? Are they the half distance from the trunk, or what are we doing there to ensure that health is being preserved for the mature trees that are staying on site?
I could tell you that was the intent. Our landscape architect planned that out. We did look at the entirety of the park after we decided to make that removal of the root bridges. On that same topic, I think there was a couple of mentions about a blanket 1 to 2 foot fill on the park site, and that is not the case.
Okay, so there's not a foot of fill coming?
Not for the entirety of the park, no, sir.
Just areas that need to address the grading into the natural vegetative buffers?
Yes, to install the facilities, yeah. Basically the area north of that vegetative buffer, closer to the bay, with the exception of that sidewalk grading piece there, no fill whatsoever on that piece.
Okay, understood. And thank you for bringing that up, because that was a concern. If we're bringing in a foot of fill, that's gonna
Detrimental to
impact
the trees.
Yeah, okay. And in the areas where that fill is coming in, we are maintaining that away from trunks in a way that will help preserve. I'm assuming
that was yes, sir. That was my understanding from the design from the LA. That he was going to do what he could to preserve those existing trees.
Okay. And so the current stormwater situation where that pond on the east side is collecting from abutting development sites, that is not changing. Those patterns aren't changing. Are there plans that you can speak of to improve that stormwater pond or that catch basin in the future, or is that just simply not part of your scope and you're doing the remainder of the site?
It would be the latter. We're exploring permittable options to do the park features itself. Any future work on that detention pond or requirements for that detention are outside of our scope.
Understood. Okay, let's see. In the EA, was there any protected habitat identified on site that requires preservation? Now, in terms of some of the policies that Ms. Moss did bring up, I will just say for the purpose of the record, any coordination with, citizen groups, environmental, concerns, those sort of things are typically addressed through our normal review procedures and processes. It doesn't mandate that there's separate meetings held with these groups or anything like that, but we provide an opportunity for them to provide input. I asked the applicant and the county to provide another opportunity for that to occur. It appears that it did, successful or not, on the July 9th. So I do appreciate that, and I do believe that our policies are being adhered to in this case. So just to cover the vendor situation again, Is this going to provide opportunities for vendors, or are these, I believe currently we have 2 parks that allow for vendor operations, or is it the other way around where there's 2 that limit them? Can you speak to that?
I'll have to defer to Walton County on that topic.
Well, is this plan to provide the vendor opportunities, and if so, are there gonna be limitations applied here? Can you speak to that at all right now? Is that a board decision in the future?
Sure, Josh Irvin, for the record. We have no plans for vending or increased vending at this particular location. If there are desires for vending, that would be a Board of County Commissioner policy decision.
Understood. And the public will have an opportunity to speak to that during that public hearing where they make that decision, if that is ever brought to them?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and just one more time here, in the pink hatch areas, so these are both the southeastern as well as that portion, the L-shaped portion. These are vegetative natural buffers that are part of the permitting process through the FDEP that will be remaining in its current natural state and will be supplemented by additional plantings. Is that accurate?
Mostly. So to correct the terminology through discussions with the DEP, it is, the correct terminology is alternative vegetative buffer. It is not it's not a natural buffer.
Okay.
So the portions on the northern end of the project, those will all be 100% new plantings.
Okay.
The portion to the southwest corner of the project, we're gonna leave the existing vegetation there and supplement to the front of that with some additional plantings.
And what sort of plantings are being proposed in the northern sort of L-shaped one? Is that where the 7 or 8 plantings are occurring? Is there some shrubberies or grasses or anything going in there as well, or is it?
They're very specific Greek, names that I can't pronounce. Through our landscape architect and conversations
Okay.
with DEP.
But it's mandated, there's standards that have to be
Specific
applied
species.
for that area by
Yes,
the DEP.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And the
understood.
trees that were referenced earlier are going different locations. They're
Okay,
not-
okay, very good. Okay, that is all that I have, other than a question for Miss Rosanna. Do you have any comments, questions, concerns?
I don't. That was very comprehensive.
Okay. Rosanna, will you come up here, please? I just want to ask you about the staff report a little bit, because I do not have a copy in front of me. Oh, thank you. It appears that there are no outstanding comments. Is that accurate?
That appears to be accurate. There are some portions of the project analysis where I think they needed more clarification, and that was pertaining to the parking, I think, which was discussed, and the impervious surface area. So just some clarification needed, I think, in the project analysis. But as far as review comments, there do not appear to be any outstanding technical comments.
And I'm not going to put you on the spot, because I know this was Mr. Baranti's project, so I don't want to ask you to answer things you may not be privy to. Privy?
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Just bear with me here, I'm just trying to look through it. So, our floodplain manager reviewed, finds it in keeping with our standards, environmental, has some conditions.
There was one thing, and I'll just point out, as I was looking through the staff report, I know there were concerns about the lighting as far as Eglin's comments, and it does say that it met the requirements of Eglin, provided there was no significant changes to the lighting plan, but that was in June of 2025, so I would have to ask the applicant if there were any changes after that date. So that's just one thing I noticed.
Thumb up or thumb down changes? Okay, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up, Rosie. And yes, so just for the public's awareness here, We do provide Eglin, their planners, the option, the ability to make comments on all of our projects that we receive here. Very rarely do we get comments from them on a development approval application. It's typically reserved for map amendments. So when we do get comments concerning a development, we do not take them lightly. And here, they've indicated that as long as the standards for their lighting remain what has been proposed, then they are good with it. So. Okay, so I'm just gonna make a couple general statements, Rosie, and then I'll ask you for your recommendation. So, and I'll try not to get long-winded here, but I do appreciate the effort, the comments, the questions, the concerns from the public, some of them rhetorical in nature, and information that I certainly don't have. I cannot speak, and I will not attempt to speak to any past work on the site relating to stormwater or other. I understand why the situation is moving forward the way it is in terms of permitting, and how it will be rectified to the greatest extent in the portion of the site that is being developed. Clearly, our engineers and floodplain manager and environmental planner do not have concerns with the proposed, and it sounds like the state agencies that are tasked with the review do not either, as long as their permitting applications come to fruition, and I'm assuming they will, based on comments made. I certainly, again, I appreciate all the work done by the neighbors. This board is the technical review committee. Review staff has determined that this project meets the technical requirements of the Land Development Code. We are bound to approve these projects that meet those standards. Now, we certainly have a little bit more work to do, and I'm cognizant of that. And when this project is ready, it will come to the director for that final approval. But before that, Rosie, what is your recommendation here? Or Bob's recommendation, if he has indicated that to you?
He has indicated that staff would conditionally approve the project, pending the final determination by the director.
Okay. I will say that I would like to add to that respectfully, in any motion that is made, if the board so chooses, that we require an updated EA to address the historical and archaeological resources that may or may not be found on site in accordance with statute, and that there is some narrative provided in terms of this BLM restriction and other deeds that appear to limit development on this site. I would request that any condition or any motion be made that conditions, that those two conditions are applied. So I will turn it over to the members of the board to make a motion as they see fit.
So moved, as stated.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, this project will be conditionally approved pending successfully addressing historical archaeological resources that may or may not be present, as well as the past deeds that appear to restrict development on this site in the form of a narrative letter exploring those. Understood? Any questions, comments, or concerns from the applicant? All right, thank you, sir. The time for public comment is no longer. Now, Ms. Moss, I know you wanted to introduce that deed into the record. If you bring it up now, that will be entered. If you would give it to Ms. Melissa over there, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you.
That is the third at
I understand that concern, and as we indicated, and as was indicated, any vendor operations on that site will have to be approved by the Board of County Commissioners at a public hearing where you will have the opportunity to address the board in that respect. Thank you for your participation. I truly appreciate the work you've done, regardless of the head shaking and disagreement here. I do understand and appreciate those efforts. Thank you, sir. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. This motion is adjourned, or this meeting is adjourned.
I mean, they're literally settling, so they let the county build them, let the county tear it down.
Sir, I don't appreciate you calling me a liar, sir. With all due respect, I didn't call you a liar.